San Francisco 49ers general manager John Lynch spoke from the league meetings and gave what I think is a positive Brock Purdy contract update. We'll talk about it. What's good, everybody? Thanks for hopping in with me here. Just reacting to some comments from John Lynch, San Francisco 49ers general manager, from the league meetings in Florida. He talked about Brock Purdy's deal. He talked about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. So we'll get to all of that here in a quick little video for you. First and foremost, I think the update was good. The wording on everything was kind of confusing, but I think the update from John Lynch was good. It started off, there was a couple of tweets, I think, that sort of led to some confusion from people, but I'll throw one of the tweets up from Nick Wagner, who, of course, covers the 49ers for ESPN. Here is what Wagner said. John Lynch was asked whether it was realistic to expect Brock Purdy to play for $5 million this season if a deal does not get done. Quote, I think we're going to get the deal done. That's what I believe. Okay, that's one quote. Then Wagner continues to write, Lynch says it's, quote, not too optimistic, end quote, to think a deal with Purdy could be done by the start of the offseason program in a couple weeks, as in that's a possibility, though by no means a guarantee. That seemingly is a very good sign. Some people were like, wait, does that mean it's not optimistic that a deal is going to get done? Or is it not too optimistic to say that it won't get done? It was a whole confusing thing, but I think this is a positive Brock Purdy update, because remember, in January 6th, Brock Purdy said this.
An opportunity to be able to get that done quick, that'd be great, just so we can get back for phase one. You know, I want to keep the main thing and not get distracted by all the chaos that can go on within it.
So clearly that was Brock wanting to get a deal done in January. When he was leaving for the offseason, that was the last thing he said. Basically, he wanted a deal done before phase one of OTAs. And apparently, according to John Lynch at the league meetings today, it's not too optimistic to think that a deal could get done by the start of the program. So hopefully this means no long drawn out contract drama. Hopefully this means that Brock is in for the program, doesn't miss anything, is throwing with wide receivers, you know, is working out with Pearsall, throwing with receivers, Jacob Cowing, all those guys. And there's just not the same sort of constant barrage of updates that we got over and over and over again during the Brandon Aiyuk situation, during the Nick Bosa situation, during the Trent Williams situation, the George Kittle situation, pretty much every situation involving a contract that the 49ers have had. It would be nice to just have this get done quietly. I wish it would have been a little quicker, quite honestly, because remember, Jimmy Garoppolo's deal got done in February. But if they get it done before the offseason program begins, that's progress for the 49ers. That is absolutely progress. And I'll take some progress, especially in this offseason. What do you think about what John Lynch said? Leave a question. Leave a comment. Always appreciate the interaction on the show, especially when I'm sort of flying solo here. The Unfaithful Perspective, thank you very much for the super chat, says, saw a video with Barrows at the meeting and he made it seem like John Lynch was ambivalent at best. The fact that we're even having this conversation, I'm not going to lie. When I first read the comments, I was like, oh no, are we in for like a long battle? And then when I reread them, you know, because Wagner says it's a possibility that a deal gets done before the offseason program begins, though by no means a guarantee. Well, of course, Lynch is not going to guarantee that it gets done before the meetings. He's never going to do that. That would be a giant mistake. I haven't seen the video that you're talking about, so maybe if I saw that Unfaithful Perspective, I might think differently. I have heard from some people that a deal is getting closer, which is good. I also continue to hear some things about Brock's arm that are a little scary. We don't know. We haven't heard any rumors of an offseason surgery or anything else like that. But I think we all had questions at the end of the year last year when we saw Brock throw a couple of times where we were like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? And of course, the way he ended the year with the injury as well, being too injured to start the last week of the season, saying it felt like his arm was on fire. Those are all things that are concerning, but we haven't had any update. I wonder if I wish Lynch was asked, hey, is Brock's arm 100%? Because, again, the last time we saw him, he was out. So, does he have any sort of medical update? Couple other things that Lynch said, quote, we were 6-11. No matter how we got there, that's embarrassing. I don't ever want to be 6-11 again. The draft is an important part of fixing that. No, not an important part of fixing it. It's your whole path to fix it, because you've let everybody go and you have not brought in starters or depth really to replace those guys. You are counting on the 11 picks you have in the draft to replace it. So it's not a part of avoiding 6-11. It's the whole part of it. So that is the Brock Purdy situation. I would like to go see. I haven't seen any tweets from Barrows, so that would have been nice if he could have clarified his position in the tweet. Let me just double check really quick. The Niners and Broncos are working on holding a joint practice this summer. No details yet. That's interesting, considering Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga are now on the Broncos. We also got a fascinating update about Dre Greenlaw and why he left the 49ers from the Denver Post, too, which was really, really interesting. But I don't see anything from Barrows specifically about what John Lynch said today. Throw that video in the chat on Faithful Perspective, if you don't mind. A little link to it. I would appreciate it. Edgar says, do you believe the Dre news? Did we really offer more or false advertising? Yeah, so for anybody that didn't read the article in the Denver Post, I put it in today's 49ers in 5, a link to it there. You can go and check it out. Basically, what happened with Dre Greenlaw is this. The Broncos came after him. Right out of the gate, they wanted him. They wanted him, hey, come here, be the man. It'll be your show. They pursued Dre Greenlaw. The Niners didn't at first. Then, at the 11th hour, according to Dre Greenlaw's adoptive father, at the 11th hour, the 49ers came in. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan got on a plane. They went to Texas to see Dre Greenlaw, and eventually the 49ers outbid the Broncos for Dre's services. But by that point, Denver had sort of already made their pitch. And as Dre's adopted father put it, there was a great quote at the end of the article, which is basically like, as long as you're in San Francisco, Dre, Fred Warner is going to be Michael Jordan and you're Scottie Pippen. Why don't you go to Denver and be freaking MJ? Was the exact quote from Dre Greenlaw's adopted father. And of course, we all know how that ended. He did go to Denver and he is going to be MJ. He's going to be a captain there. In the article, it said that he wanted to be a captain, which is, I thought, interesting too. And we had heard Matt Barrows say Dre Greenlaw wanted to run his own shop. That was the quote that Matt Barrows used. So apparently that was true. And so the Niners, kind of slow play Dre Greenlaw, and they ultimately lost out. And that's unfortunate. You would think the Niners would come out of the gate. Supposedly Robert Saleh wanted a full court press to keep Dre Greenlaw. They flew down to try, but a lot of this stuff, especially with free agency, is about the timing. Guys like to be recruited. Who doesn't like to be recruited, right, in their job? I've been incredibly lucky wherever I have gone. Once I got my first job at ESPN, everywhere else I went, I was recruited. And it feels great. Somebody says, hey, you have one of those cool conversations where they pull you aside and they say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I want you to come with me. I need you to come with me. Please come. That's exactly how I went from ESPN to NBC Sports Radio when that was starting up. Eric Castilius was hosting a show at NBC. He was leaving ESPN. And he was like, I want you to come produce my show. And it's awesome. It feels really good, man, to be recruited. And yeah, when I told ESPN the news, they pulled me into a room and they said, hey, we want to keep you. What can we do to try and keep you? But by that point, I was gone. There was nothing they could do because somebody else wanted me and they made an effort and they went out and found me. And that feels good. Not going to lie. And so with Dre Greenlaw, Denver came out. They wanted him. They offered him the ability to run his own shop. I understand that. By the time I left ESPN, I was still a production assistant. I was producing the biggest sports talk show in the country at the time, Mike and Mike in the Morning. And then NBC came and they said, we'll make you an executive producer. You'll produce our flagship national show as we launch this network. I was like, you know what? I want that. I want my own shop. I want to be the executive producer. I don't want to have to answer to anybody else. And it's not that I was unhappy where I was, but it was time for a new role for me. Dre Greenlaw probably felt the exact same way. It's time for something new. Yeah, it's great here. It's great to be with Fred Warner. He loved Fred Warner. I get that. I love the people I worked with at ESPN. But, you become ready for new things. And clearly, Dre wanted to run his own shop, be the man in the middle of a defense. He knows his football mortality is ticking, obviously, with the injury he went through and the rehab and all that stuff. This was his chance. If he didn't do it now, he was never going to do it. And he took it. So good for Dre Greenlaw, but it was a really cool article in the Denver Post. There's comments from Fred Warner in there as well. Just an awesome, awesome breakdown. And if you have the time, I highly recommend you go and check it out. Not now. This is our time. Checking the chat. Stevo Supremo says, what's the real scoop on Golick? What do you mean? With Greeny and Golick, there was no real. I mean, that's been talked about to death. It was time for them to do different things, too. That's the reality of the situation. Eventually, you get to a point with where you are that you need a change. It could be Dre Greenlaw. It could be Talanoa Hufanga. Could be Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick. Could be me. You need a change. And stuff ends, unfortunately. And for the 49ers now, Dre Greenlaw is going to be in Denver. And it'll be fascinating if they do pull off those joint practices with the Broncos, just to see the interaction and what that's like. We know that Fred can get a little feisty in some of these things. And how does he react to Greenlaw leaving? It'd be interesting. Of course, the Niners were supposed to have joint practices last year, remember, and they didn't because they were so injured. So we'll see. Now, let's get to the other part of the John Lynch update, because he not only talked about Brock Purdy, but he also talked about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. For anyone that doesn't know, today is the day. If Brandon Aiyuk is going to be traded, it has to be today, because tomorrow his $23 million option bonus becomes guaranteed. And the 2026 option bonus goes from an injury guarantee to a regular guarantee. So this is a big, big day. But it doesn't seem like there is any situation. I shouldn't say any situation. It doesn't seem likely right now. John Lynch said, quote, "We love Brandon Aiyuk as a football player. We did when we drafted him, and we're excited to move forward with him." He also added that there was no regret about the Brandon Aiyuk contract situation, which is laughable, because the 49ers have been leaking to everybody, national reporters, local reporters, how much they regret the Brandon Aiyuk situation, how much they hate that contract, and they were desperate to get rid of it. Adam Schefter just talked about how you could offer anything for Brandon Aiyuk and get him. So the idea that they don't regret that contract is crazy. Lynch is never going to say publicly that they regret it, but again, they have leaked to everybody that is the exact contract that they have regretted. And when reporters reported that, when Mike Silver reported it, when Tim Kawakami reported it, there was no pushback from the Niners up until today. But there was no immediate pushback. If they wanted to nip that in the bud and didn't want that perception out there, they could have immediately responded. That's ridiculous. We love Brandon Aiyuk. They didn't. They let it sit for weeks and weeks and weeks. And now finally John Lynch comes out and says something. So they clearly had no problem with that being out there as they were trying to trade BA. So I dispute that part of it from John Lynch. I get why he's saying it now, but, your silence before spoke volumes, so to speak. Let me see if I can find the actual tweet about the Aiyuk situation. I can't find it right now, of course, here we go. John Lynch said, here, you know what? Let me throw it up on the screen for you so you can see it too. It's probably a better way to go. This comes from Nick Wagner of ESPN. John Lynch says he expects Brandon Aiyuk to be part of the team this year. He said he thought there was, quote, spillover from last year when teams wanted to try to acquire Aiyuk, but added there's no regret about the extension. We love Brandon as a football player. We did when we drafted him, yada, yada, yada. John, the idea that, teams were just asking last year, so they continue to ask this year. No, man. No. Teams don't do that. They don't try to trade for a guy and then wait a year and then try to trade for him again after he signs a big contract and after he sustains a devastating knee injury. That's not spillover. That's you trying to get out of it. Everybody knows you were shopping this guy. You had him traded last year until Kyle Shanahan avoided it at the 11th hour. Don't try to act like you weren't actively trying to move him. Like, again, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, right? We know what's up. Hopefully he was specifically asked about the regret, because if he was, that's good. That's a good job by whoever was there. I know that there's a couple of Niners beat writers there at the league meetings. But the idea that, it's just spillover from last year, like, that's not how any of this works, John. Come on. I don't like when they say things like this because I feel like it insults our intelligence. We've been watching the NFL long enough to know that that's not how it works. It doesn't just magically carry over year to year when that player has signed an extension and tore up his knee in week 7. No, it's just simply not believable. Heineman on Twitch says John Lynch with the little clown emoji. Love that. Shout out to you, Heineman, and all the Twitch fam. We love the Twitch fam. So I didn't expect John Lynch to speak. I thought everybody from the Niners was going to speak tomorrow, but apparently John Lynch spoke today. Kyle Shanahan hopefully will speak tomorrow, and hopefully Jed York too. And those are two guys I really want to hear from. Kyle Shanahan, how do you feel about the narrative that is out there that the team blames you and your emotional decisions for the bad contracts and all the big spending that they have done in recent years? That's got to be the first question to Kyle Shanahan. Would love to see his reaction. Kyle, do you feel like the team has spent enough this offseason? Would you like to have seen them spend more? Has anyone told you that the spending might not be there in future years? How do you feel about that? That has to be the biggest topic of conversation. Forget the Brock contract. Kyle's a coach. He's going to say, I stay out of it anyway. You can ask him about that after. Ask him about being publicly neutered by this franchise and by Jed's tightening of the wallet. Because Kyle will tell you, he's not going to fake it, right? He will tell you how he is feeling, and we'll know pretty quick whether, 1, he agreed with it, whether 2, he was aware that it was going to be this tight in terms of money. He'll tell us exactly what the situation was, because Kyle doesn't have that sort of media. I don't know. He doesn't play that game. That's John Lynch's bag, where he tries to, finesse the media a little bit. Kyle doesn't really do that. So it'll be very, very telling. And hopefully we get some video on that as well. By the way, I don't know if you saw the official coach's photo is out. Kyle Shanahan, not exactly smiling. And I get it. There's not that much to smile about if you're the 49ers right now. But there's Kyle in the official meeting, or the official photo. Excuse me. So I should talk about this just for a quick second. I have been to the league meetings. I covered the league meetings for Pro Football Talk and NBC for years when I worked on Pro Football Talk Live with Mike Florio and Chris Sims as the producer. It's a very cool thing. They stay, of course, because it's, GMs, owners, and coaches, they stay in very, very fancy hotels, very, very swanky. It's always somewhere that's warm. And you just go and they're all there. They have, of course, the owners have meetings, the coaches have meetings, everybody, and everybody's just kind of there walking around because it's a hotel. It's, it's not super huge. So you're just walking around. It's like, hey, there's John Lynch. Hey, there's Adam Schefter. Hey, there's Jerry Jones. When I walked in to check into the hotel one year, it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. Jerry Jones was sitting in the bar of the hotel, hammered out of his mind. Just there, because there's a lot of NFL people. It's not a big area. It's a really, really cool environment. So they're all there. They're all talking. Of course, they're talking about deals and players, not brazenly out there. They're not in the hotel lobby talking about deals, but you meet somewhere, conference room, whatever, phone call, all this stuff gets talked about. All this stuff gets done. It's a very, very cool environment. They have a big party one of the nights. It's awesome. There's all this free food, open bar. There's usually a band too. It's very, very cool. And of course, one of the things they're doing is rules changes. They vote on that. The competition committee meets. Apparently, the competition committee is really having a battle over this whole tush push thing and whether or not they should ban it. The Eagles, Howie Roseman, and the assistant GM there in Philly got into a very animated argument with Sean McVay and Sean McDermott, apparently, about this rule, according to ESPN.com. Remember, John Lynch is on the competition committee now, so he's going to be part of that whole decision. For the record, I think that it's crazy to ban the tush push, but that's just me. Just because the Eagles are really good at it. Like, no, other teams should just get good on it, and then they will have the benefit of that. I don't like banning things just because somebody else is really good at it. Moonman Ed enjoyed Kyle Shanahan's expression in that coach photo. Appreciate that. Mr. BMW Lotus says, dude, you should work out. You're a twig. You're not the first person to say that. Heineman says, I like how Tim K is cooking now like the old days. Yeah, Tim Kawakami has absolutely been roasting the 49ers all offseason. He's been calling them out when he disagrees with them. He's called out Jed York repeatedly. I love it. I love the skepticism. That's how it should be from every 49ers reporter all the time, because that's your job as a beat writer. Your job is to be skeptical and to hold a team accountable for what they say and any differences in what they say and what they do. That's, to me, what a beat writer should do. And the Niners guys way too often just sort of accept the party line and don't question things and aren't skeptical enough. And hopefully we can get a little of that skepticism. You know, sometimes a 6-11 season can prompt a little of that. Sometimes it's deserved skepticism, I might add. And I love seeing it from Tim, because that's how he was in the Harbaugh era as well. He was skeptical of stuff. He would call out Jim Harbaugh. They had some battles, man, for sure. So I like to see Tim get back to his old ways, so to speak. Good. Keep it up, Tim. I wish get the rest of your people there to do the same thing. So that was always exciting to see. And God knows there's some people in the 49ers beat that are ultra positive. So we've got that angle if you want it. I know there's some negative ones too, but I'm seeing a quote from John Lynch about Dre Greenlaw. Let me throw that up on the screen. Thank you to RSF 49ers for aggregating this. I know aggregators get a bad name. Well, I appreciate it. John Lynch addressed the last-ditch effort to keep Dre Greenlaw. Quote, we weren't done with Dre, but we had enough to go through the process, and other teams were aggressive in their pursuit of him, and we were kind of forced to be somewhat reactive. And then when the market was set, we wanted to go have a conversation with our guy, who we have a lot of respect and love for. We had a good discussion with him. He made a decision, and we respect that decision. We're grateful to Dre for all the great work he did. We wish him the best. We'll see if that was a good decision or not. I know that guy is a tremendous football player. I wish him and his family the best. It got out there that we went and saw him, but he chose to go to Denver. Okay, that's interesting to me. The part of the quote where John says they were aggressive in their pursuit of him. Like I said, Denver came out of the gate and bam, they recruited Dre Greenlaw. And Lynch saying we were kind of forced to be somewhat reactive. Forced by who? I would assume Jed York, right? Is that John Lynch's way of saying Jed wanted to see what the market was before we made him a contract offer? Because God forbid the Niners ever overpay for anybody. They're so worried about overpaying that they had to slow play all of this. And then what happened? Denver came in, boom, showed Dre the love. He wanted to go with them, and the Niners tried to save it at the 11th hour. This, to me, confirms everything that was in that Denver Post article. Look at that. We were kind of forced to be somewhat reactive. First follow-up question is, forced by who? Who or what, John? Why wouldn't you go after this guy full bore? What forced you to be reactive? Did you want to be reactive? If you could do it again, would you have done it differently? It's a very interesting quote. So basically, they waited for the market. They found out what the market was. They tried to save it, but by then it was too late. You know, I think sometimes that people think these things are all about money and nothing else. Money, of course, is a huge, huge part of it. And for most people, money's probably the most important part of it, but not for everybody. And maybe the other stuff is a much bigger piece of the pie than a lot of people realize. And I think the opportunity to run his own shop, to be the main guy, that's not nothing for Dre Greenlaw. And then, yeah, maybe the Niners topped the Broncos offer, but how much did they top it by? Was it $1 million? Was it $500,000? You know, just because you're the top doesn't mean the difference between the two is that much. And if the difference between the offers was kind of negligible in Dre Greenlaw's mind, then all that other stuff comes back into play. Then it's like, all right, yeah, the money's the same. Okay, so I'm getting, I forget what he signed for. Was it? I can't remember the exact number, but it was like, if I'm getting 500 grand more from the Niners, like, does that make a difference to me? Is that enough to make up for the fact that I would be Scottie Pippen instead of Michael Jordan for probably the rest of my career? I would imagine if you wanted that, you were going to have to pay for that, right? I'm sure there was a number where Dre was like, damn, okay, that's so much money that, yeah, I'm not going to be Michael Jordan, but it's a lot of money to be Scottie damn Pippen. And by the way, just side note, Scottie Pippen's one of the best 75 players to ever play in the history of the NBA. He's a Hall of Fame player. Everybody likes to use that analogy to like crap on people. There's no shame in being Scottie Pippen. I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, I'm sure for Dre, it was like, if you're not going to pay me enough to miss out on that opportunity, then I'm going to Denver. And I don't blame him. Interesting little line in there, too, at the end by John Lynch. We'll see if that was a good decision or not. Oh, okay. I mean, you're not wrong, but damn, that's kind of feels like you're throwing a little shade at Dre Greenlaw, doesn't it? Like, just a little. And frankly, the Broncos made the playoffs last year. The Niners didn't. So, yeah, I mean, I get why Dre would want to leave. Edgar says Niners should still be playoff bound if we kill it in the draft and stay healthy. Super Bowl, probably not, but playoffs, yes, if the aforementioned is met. Well, I feel like every team can say, hey, if we kill it in the draft, we can make the playoffs, right? Team's got 7 picks. If all 7 of those picks are really good players, you're probably going to make the playoffs. Unless your team is absolutely dreadful. And even then, if one of those good players is a quarterback, who the hell knows? I just don't like we have to nail every pick in the draft. That is a very, very thin line to walk if you are a 49ers fan. Every team needs to nail it in the draft. Almost nobody does because it's really hard to do. The Niners try to nail it in the draft every year. And we know from 2021 to 2023, they got like 3 good players out of those drafts that they were trying to nail. So it's a very, very difficult thing to do. And the Niners are putting a lot out of it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. I'm just seeing a tweet from Richard Sherman who said, house being robbed at gunpoint with my family isn't in it. With my family in it isn't what anyone wanted for a birthday gift. Scary situation that my wife handled masterfully and kept my kids safe. If anyone has any info that can help find these people, reach out. And there's surveillance. I mean, that guy looks like he has a gun. This is incredible from Richard Sherman that he just tweeted this out there. This is unbelievable. I'm glad everyone's okay, first and foremost. You know, obviously no one wants to lose their possessions, but family is irreplaceable. So everyone's okay. That's good. Shout out to Sherman's wife. That's incredible that she was able to keep her cool in that sort of a crisis situation. But obviously this is terrible for Richard Sherman. He just tweeted this out there. I had no idea. That's awful. And hopefully the people can be brought to justice. But man, I did not expect to see that on the timeline. That is, hug your people, man. That's all I could say. You never know when something can happen. Don't take anything for granted. That's all I'll say. Anyway, that's going to do it for this update. Just wanted to pop on real quick and react to what John Lynch had to say. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Oh, Jason Aponte is here. Reminding everyone, thank you, Jay. He is in the Elite 8. The Elite 8 of the 49ers Media Madness Tournament is underway right now. You can go and vote. I'll put a link, in the description of the episode. Why did this picture not work? That is not what I want. There we go. There is the bracket update. Jason's got a tough task. He's going up against Brad Graham, and Brad is the reigning champion of the Media Madness Tournament. So that is not going to be easy. You can go vote for Jay. I'm against Mayoko. He's probably going to smoke me. I'm not going to lie. Pretty sure I'll get badly, badly beaten in that one. But I'm not going to lie. I want to win this thing. It'd be nice for me to win it 1 year. Just throwing that out there. So then it's Brad and Jay and me and Mayoko on one side. And then you've got Eric Crocker up against Tim Kawakami, who we just talked about is having a bit of a renaissance this offseason. And then you've got Jordan Elliott, who has stormed through the bracket, upsetting David Lombardi also, by the way. And he's facing Matt Barrows. So that is your final 8 people. Brad Graham, Jason Aponte, me, Matt Mayoko, Eric Crocker, Tim Kawakami, Jordan Elliott, and Matt Barrows. I feel like I have to get further than Jay. It's my tournament. Like, come on, people. Vote for me. I'm stumping for votes. That's it. I am not above it. I am here. Jay says, what's up, everyone? Hope you're having a great Monday. Jay's in a good mood because he and I have a bet about Brandon Aiyuk getting traded. I bet that Aiyuk was going to be gone by April 1st. He didn't. Looks like I'm going to lose that bet right now, so I'll have to wear a stupid, disgusting Yankee hat on the stream. I don't like that at all. I hate the Yankees with a white-hot passion. Jay's a big Yankee fan. I think they just hit another home run, by the way. 415 Faithful says Steph got robbed. Yeah, Steph Sanchez had a tough matchup. Everybody likes Crocker. That's the problem. Nobody dislikes Eric Crocker. Some people get votes. Some people lose votes because people don't like them, so they just vote for their opponent. Nobody's doing that with Croc. He's very, very difficult to beat. So I would not be shocked if Eric Crocker took down Tim Kawakami at all. If I had to pick Matt Barrows and Jordan Elliott, I'll probably say Barrows. Matt Mayoko is going to crush me. Brad and Jay is a tough one. Brad, I don't know anyone that dislikes Brad either. That's the thing. Even if you don't go to Brad's YouTube channel regularly, like that's just not the content that you consume, nobody dislikes Brad. So it's going to be tough for you, Jay. Not going to lie. I wish you the worst of luck. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Like and subscribe. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're live every single weekday here on the 49ers Gold Standard YouTube channel and podcast. I'll be live later tonight with Vish Kumaran, 5 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be live with Vish. We'll react to everything that's going on at the league meetings. So we're live every single day. We do news updates in the morning. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I promise you, we won't let you down.